Today we are going to talk about simple and compound interest. What's really great about money is that money can earn you money. You can deposit money into a bank account and earn interest over time. Nowadays, people aren't earning too much interest with bank accounts, but it's better than stuffing the money underneath your mattress. So let interest work for you. Interest is the amount of money paid or earned for the use of money by a bank or other financial institution. Simple interest is paid only on the initial principal. That's the amount of money you might put into the bank of a savings account or a loan. To solve problems involving simple interest, we use this formula, I equals PRT. So let's get some of this down and digest this information, and then use this formula to solve different problems involving simple interest. So, first of all, interest. So again, it's the amount of money paid or earned. If you take a loan out from a bank, you need to pay interest on that loan over time because you're borrowing a larger amount of money than you have. But again, if you put money into the bank, your money can earn interest. So that's why we say the amount of money either paid or earned for the use of money by a bank, it's typically a bank, or other financial institutions. And like I said before, simple interest is paid only on the initial principal of a savings account or a loan. Compound interest is what we're going to take a look at next, and that's where your money plus interest earns more money over time. But simple interest just focuses on the initial deposit. So if you put in $100, only $100 will earn interest over time over a certain number of years. Okay, so let me get down principal. The principal is the amount of money invested or borrowed. Now I just want to point out, I know the word invested starts with I, and I know interest starts with I. It's important to know the difference between the two. So the principal is the amount of money invested or the amount of money you put into the bank or borrowed. That's what it means to invest. Okay, now that we have some of those keywords, let's take a look at our handy-dandy formula. I equals PRT. I stands for the interest. P stands for the principal amount or money invested. So again, that's where the other I word might come in play, but that refers to that principal, that initial amount of money put in. R is your annual interest rate. Annual means yearly. And this needs to be converted into a decimal. Usually it's a percentage. We need to convert to a decimal before we use it. And T is time in years. I equals PRT. So if we know the amount that we've invested, we can multiply it by the interest rate and the number of years to figure out the interest earned. That's just one example of how we can use this. So let's go ahead and put this to the test. Trickiest part is figuring out which amounts we have and which amounts we need to find. So be very careful when defining your variables and recognizing what it is you're given and what it is we need to find. So, for example, let's go ahead and find the simple interest to the nearest cent. That means to the nearest hundredth. So find the simple interest, nearest cent. And let's say we have invested $2,500 at 6.75% for 3 years. Now, a few years ago we could have gotten an interest rate like that, but nowadays it'd be a little bit tricky to find. They're a lot less than that. But we can work with this anyway, see what we would get. So, what are we trying to find? Well, we're trying to find the simple interest, I, so we're not sure what I is. That means that we should have all of the other parts. Well, what's the principal amount invested? Here it is, $2,500. R, what's the rate? Well, we have 6.75%. I said before that we have to convert it into a decimal. Right now, I know there's a decimal in the percentage, but this is still a percentage. To convert it into just a decimal, we need to divide by 100. You move your decimal over twice to the left, and that gives us 0.0675. Do not round this number. We need to work with this number. We will round our final answer so that we get the most accurate answer possible. T is the time in years, and we have 3 years. Okay, so I equals PRT. Let's work our magic. I equals the principal times our interest rate as a decimal times 3. Of course, I will allow you to use your calculator for this, so please go ahead and calculate. You should get an answer of $506.25. So over 3 years, $2,500 is made over $500 at an interest rate of 6.75%. That's really great. Again, that's your money just making money. Let's take a look at another example. So let's say I invest $1,200 at an annual rate of 6.5%. And I want to know how long it will take to earn $195. So again, we're working with simple interest. I equals PRT. Let's go ahead and identify what it is we have and what it is we need to find. Well, we say we've invested $1,200. That will represent our principal amount at 6.5%. So remember, we have to convert that into just decimal, divide by 100, 0.065. And then the question is how long. That refers to time. So that's what we're going to be figuring out here. It says to earn $195. Well, remember, what do we earn? Interest. So that is referring to the interest earned. What's invested is the principal amount. So you need to be careful where you put your monetary amounts. You don't want to mix them up. Typically, whatever you invest is going to be much more than what you earn in interest. If we could invest $5 and earn $800 from that 5 because of interest, everyone would be putting their money into that, and that is not sustainable. So that's another clue as to where your monetary numbers go. The amount invested is almost always larger than the amount of interest earned. So let's substitute in. We have I, that's 195. We have P, which is 1200, times 0.065 times T. This equation is an equation we can solve. Let's go ahead and simplify. You can multiply here first. Again, don't round anything until the very end. We can divide to get T, so you may use a calculator to do that. And when you do that, you should get a nice answer of 2.5 years. Remember, we are asked how long would it take? 2.5 years. Not how much money, so there's no dollar sign, there's no percent sign here. Let's take a look at another kind of example involving simple interest. So let's say Mr. Gable borrowed $1,860 to buy a computer. And people do this all the time. They borrow money. Okay, and he will pay $71.30 per month for 30 months. Find the simple interest rate for his loan. So go ahead and get this down. And this is very different from the types of examples we were looking at before. So how do we work through this? Well, first, find the amount of interest he will pay. The total amount he will pay will equal that amount of money he's paying per month for 30 months. That gives us $2,139. Okay, so the total amount he will pay needs to be calculated. Now we can find the interest he will pay. We can find that by taking the total amount paid and subtracting the amount borrowed. And this will represent the amount of interest Mr. Gable paid. So he paid $279 in interest. Now let's go ahead and organize our information. The principal amount borrowed was $1,860. T was 30 months, but remember, in our equation I equals PRT, 30 months has to be converted into years. We're working with years. So how do you change months into years? You divide by 12. There are 12 months in every year, and you'll get 2.5 years. Let's go back to our formula. Interest was $279. We had to calculate that. The principal amount borrowed was $1,860 times the interest rate R, which we don't know, that's what we are trying to find, times 2.5. Please calculate and tell me the decimal R equals. You should get R equaling 0.06. Now we're not done yet. We need to convert this into a percentage because that's how interest rates are always presented, as percentages. You multiply by 100 and it turns out that he is paying 6% interest on his loan. This type of problem involved many steps, so please make sure you are using your notes while working through the bookwork tomorrow in class, and make sure you ask any questions if they arise. Let's take a look now at compound interest. Compound interest is where your interest earns interest. So it is paid on the initial principal and on the interest earned in the past. Let's take a look at an example and see how we can compute compound interest. So, what is the total amount of money in an account, we're talking a bank account here, where $600 is invested at an interest rate, this is nice, of 8.75%. And I'm going to say this is compounded annually. That means every year for 2 years. Okay, so how on earth do we go about solving this one? Well, first we can use the simple interest formula to figure out the amount of interest earned after that first year. So we're going to focus on that first year. What is the interest earned if $600 is invested at this rate for, again, 1 year? Please compute, and you'll get interest of $52.50. Okay, that's a lot of money. Now let's add that to the initial $600. We get $652.50. We will finish this in class tomorrow. See